Hello, everyone. We're back today with Kevin Briggs, and I need to tell you what Bob did. Bob started the stream yesterday with inside Chrome, where I do a lot of work, and I had like 50 tabs open, and six of those tabs were running like full steam ahead, and they rugged the whole operation. Today we have one tab open on a different browser, and this is the one we will use from now on for StreamYard, so nothing else is in the way. Kevin, I apologize deeply for yesterday.
Okay, no problem. At least you found the cause, Bob. It wasn't a mystery. So,
No, it wasn't a mystery, and so I got everything going about half hour ago, and here we are. We're all in good shape. Lala's
yeah.
almost here. Our teenager is out on spring break, and she took him to an event, and she will be here in 30 seconds or so. But
Okay,
we
that's
were we
yeah,
we we really apologize to you and to our audience for making that really dumb mistake. It's easy to make. And so now I can explain to lots of other people like Dave Scott and people who are running spaces on X and other things why they can't explain why things are rugging. It's because they keep 50 tabs open on Chrome like I did. So anyway, look, Kevin, what I suggest we do is you tell your life story over again, and then we'll just pick up in a conversation wherever we feel like going, because there's nothing boring about your life. And I want people to hear it clearly and not messed up.
okay. So, do you want me to start from the beginning again, or just go over it briefly? If
No,
you
no,
want.
let's start with a beginning story so
Okay,
that we
okay,
can get a clearer recording in all of our places. And yeah, we're back today and we're doing better. Anyway, please tell us the story again so we'll have a clear recording.
okay. Feel free to jump in anytime, and I'll try and make it concise and
No,
repeat
no,
what.
go as long as you want. This
Oh,
show,
okay,
show is about you.
okay then. Right then. Well, as I said yesterday, uh, I'll just point something out. The sun's setting at the back now, so I might have to get up and adjust my blinds if the sun starts coming in and shining on my face. So I'll just sort of pre-warn you about that. So, yeah, okay then. So my journey started when I was 3 years old. My mother had engaged a photographer to take some photographs for the family album. He duly arrived, and I was lifted up onto the oak dining room table for a better elevated position for the photographs. And from that position, I looked around the room and I realized my conscious energy was in a physical body again. And it was quite clear to me. It was like a symbiosis. I had my physical body, and then I had me inside it, as it were, my consciousness. And I was looking around, and that stayed with me for quite a while as a child, having that duality of consciousness, shall we say, that awareness of the consciousness. So that was the beginning of my journey. And then the next stage, I had an encounter with two beings. I was 8 years old. I was taking a bath at home. I was always sensitive to the frequencies that surround us, uh, and I felt a change in the frequency in the bathroom. I looked to my right, and two beings appeared. Frightened me to death at the time, as you can imagine, Bob and Lala, just as a young 8-year-old boy. These beings were both very attractive. Both had long, shoulder length blonde hair, one male, one female. I've obviously come to know them over the years. Their names are Ort and D. Ort is the male, D is the female. They are Arcturians and they are fifth dimensional beings. I know that now because obviously I've had lifelong contact with them. And the only difference between the dimensions are the frequencies of consciousness themselves. Anyway, they were talking to one another telepathically, and I could understand what they were saying. D said to Art, "Is this the boy?" He said, "Yes, this is a boy." And then she questioned him again, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, I'm sure." And then she said, "But look at him. He's small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence." And she was correct. I was terrified. There was some other conversation, and then they left. I was so frightened I didn't get out of the bath. The water went cold. I was shivering. My mother came in to see I was still in the bathtub, and I told her about the two beings, and she said it was just my imagination. It wasn't. I'm still in contact with them to this day, and I'm now 71. So my next encounter, I was 9 years old, and I'd say I remember all these encounters quite clearly. I had some friends round. It was a Sunday afternoon. We'd been playing board games, and then it was time for them to go home for their tea or their dinner. We packed up the board games, put them away, and I showed them out the back door. As I turned round into the home, I felt the frequency of something in the home. So I went looking for this frequency. I went in the kitchen, the living room, the 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Tell us what that feels like. The frequency. What does it feel? How do you feel it?
You hear like a ringing.
You know, if you stand in front of a big speaker and it vibrates, I can feel the vibration of the frequency. That's how I feel it. And I can usually feel it through my hands, but also you can feel it through your body. So you're aware there's something there. You feel that change in the frequency. So I went looking for it, and I was drawn back to the living room. I went to the window and looked behind the curtains, behind the drapes, and there was an orange orb there, orangey yellow in colour, about 4 to 6 inches in diameter. It was slightly vibrating. There was no communication that I was aware of at that time. I was a bit concerned because I thought I'd brought it into the home, and if my mother saw it, I would get into trouble. So I thought it would probably disappear when I went to bed that night and woke up the following morning. So I went to bed that night, woke up in the morning, and I knew from upstairs in the bedroom that the orb was still there. I could feel the frequency. I went downstairs and I looked behind the curtain, and it was there. To cut a long story short, it stayed there until Friday. I came home from school on the Friday. I opened the back door and I knew that the orb had gone. I went to the window. I had a look behind the curtain and it wasn't there. As I said, I didn't have any communication with the orb that I was aware of. But from that day on, I was able to travel outside of my physical body, separating my conscious energy, and travel anywhere I wanted to go. I didn't know the full potential of it then, but I do now. I use it. And I just used it to go and visit my grandparents. I lived in Wakefield in the UK. My grandparents lived 70 miles away in Liverpool. And usually on a Sunday, I would relax, open my mind, travel over there out of body, enter through the roof, and sit in a chair upstairs. They had a master bedroom with a dressing room attached to it. I would sit in that chair and I would look down through the floor, and the floor was opaque. Usually my grandmother would be cooking in the kitchen on a Sunday, and my grandfather either reading the newspaper or watching TV. It gave me great pleasure to see them there. And I often wondered, as I was sat there as a child, what would they see if they came up into the dressing room? I know the answer to that now. They would have seen my pure conscious energy orb. It would have been 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating, orangey, yellow, golden in colour. And the orb that was in my home when I was 9 was the pure conscious energy orb of Ort. I learned that later on. So I suspect that they activated something within my DNA. Our DNA is encoded with light frequencies, and these can be activated. And I suspect, I haven't been told that, but I just suspect that. I have been told that our DNA does have encoded light frequency within it. So I do know that. So that takes me to, let me see, I was 9 when that was happening. And then probably I'm just a normal young boy growing up, and I had a paper round when I was 14. And every time I left the home, I would look up and there was a UFO flying above the house, just stationary above the home. And as I'm going down to collect the newspapers, a second UFO would come and appear, follow me around the paper round, and then when I'd finished, one would go usually back in the direction that it had come from, and the other one would go straight up into space. But when they were following me, I was sensitive to a frequency behind the wall, behind the hedge. And on one day, I plucked up courage and said, I know you're there. Can you show yourself? and two small greys stepped out from behind the hedge, behind the wall. I wasn't frightened by them, and I said, "What do you want?" They said, "There's a group of people that would like to meet with you." I said, "Well, I've got to finish my paper round, and then I've got to go to school. I don't think I'll be able to go with you." So they said, "Well, you can finish your paper round. I've nearly finished it anyway, and then we'll have you back in time for school." So I agreed to go with them. We went in a small craft. I was transported to a mothership, and I only know that it's a mothership because I'm assuming it was a mothership because we pulled into the hangar, and it was huge. It was the size of 2 football stadiums, and in there were multiple craft that we see, that people take photographs flying around our planet. And I was escorted down towards a door to go into the main craft. And as I was walking down there was a small grey working on one of the craft. I've got to know him since then. His name is Tia. He's a pilot, and he maintains his own craft. And I've met him. I've seen him here at the back of my home here. And my wife took a photograph when he was flying a craft behind our home a while ago. So I can tell you that story a bit later on, possibly. So
yes, please.
I'm escorted down into the amphitheatre. At the front of the amphitheatre, it's full, is this amphitheatre, all these different beings and things. And I thought then I was there just to be paraded as a human specimen. That wasn't the case. I know that now. Anyway, I went down to the front, and I was introduced to all 8 beings sat at the front. I've come to know them as the Council of 8. Ort and Dee were the first 2, the ones that I met in my bathroom when I was 8. Then there was Anna, she was a bluebird type being. And then Zark, a small grey, he's a mathematician and engineer. He designs propulsion systems, and he's from the Pleiades system, he tells me. And he has 3 offspring. They refer to them as offspring and not. But he has a sense of humour as well. I know when I speak to them telepathically, I'm not only able to get the communication, I also see where they are visually. And I feel the emotions that come through with the telepathic communication. And then in the center, there was a big guy, Ra. He's Anunnaki, very old, very powerful energy with him. He looked like an ancient Egyptian. That's how I would describe him.
How tall?
Pardon?
How tall?
Oh, tall. Well, they were sat down behind the desk. So I would say over 6 feet. Over 6 feet, but not a giant, but large. Yeah, he was large, big, muscular physique. He was a big guy.
You called him Ra, like the sun god? Ra.
R-A-H, yes. I asked him if it was Ra, the Egyptian sun god once, and he said no. He says, I was alive in those times, and I was manifested in those times, but I'm not the god Ra. But my own personal opinion is, if he was there in ancient Egyptian times and was showing himself and showing the technologies, they would have thought of him as a god. But he tells me he's not a god. He's a 9th dimensional being, and he doesn't have a physical body now. He's just in the spirit realm, as it were, but he can incarnate anytime he wishes. So that's Ra. And then Tag, he's a tall grey. He told me he was responsible for not only the security of this Council of 8, but the security of this quadrant of the galaxy. And the next one, I was a little bit perturbed about it. It was, his name is Chica, but he's a mantis being, very old, very wise, very well respected by this group, over 6 feet tall, very tall indeed. And he was looking down on me. And as you can imagine, we have the mantis beings here, the smaller ones, just like that, exactly the same, but full size. And then the last one was Orla. She was a tall white. She told me she was an astrobiologist. She had very gaunt, grey features, and she had long, I call it blonde hair, but it was translucent. You could see through it. So those were the 8 beings that I was introduced to at 14. Now, when I got back home, I was about 25 minutes later than I normally am when I've finished my paper round. So that was the time I was away and I got to school. I had breakfast and got to school on time. But I'm still in contact with all 8 to this day. And I realize now that I wasn't there as the human specimen. They wanted to meet with me and to be introduced to them. And Orton D have educated now me all my life in relation to consciousness itself and how it can be utilized as a conduit for communication, for travel, for healing, for education, for creation and co-creation. And I've got many examples of all of those that we are able to do as humans. We can all learn these abilities. They are just human abilities, psychic intelligence. And when you understand how consciousness, as they do, we can communicate with them at their level of consciousness. We can travel at their level of consciousness together if we need to do that. I've done that many times. I've done that many times out of body with Orton D. I've traveled on a conscious craft created by Orton D. and traveled as a pure conscious energy orb. I can share that story with you a little bit later on. That's
Please.
interesting in relation to an understanding of consciousness and how it can be used for creation and travel and communication. They're all in there, and traveling as pure conscious energy orb. So that's quite an interesting story. So now I've got to 14. I'm still growing up. I get to about 17, 18. I get a job, just a technician at the university, and I have my own apartment. And I'm asking my family and friends, because I'm traveling out of body at will, and I just do it for fun. If I want to go out for a lunch or go for a pint with my friend, I'd nip over first to his house out of body to make sure I was home, because we didn't have cell phones in them days. And I didn't have a phone in the house. So I just nip over. In fact, I've got an interesting story. I'll tell you this one. This is, my friend's name was Gary, and I thought, we'll go for a pint. It's Sunday. So I flew over there, and he's on the sofa, laid on the sofa watching TV. So I come back to my body, I get ready, and I walk round to his home. It's about a 10, 15 minute walk. I knock on the door, and his mother opens the door. I said, is Gary in? And she says, no, he's not. I thought, I've just seen him. And then she said, he's been watching football all morning, laid on the sofa, but he's just left. You've just missed him. He's going around to Steve's to see if he wants to go for a pint up to the pub. So I said, right, I'll walk around there. So that's a simple use of it. Simplistic, really. But it's what I used to do. And when I came out of the house in the morning to go to get the bus to go to work, there was 2 bus stops I could walk to. And sometimes the buses missed. They weren't very regular. And there was a huge line, a queue at the bus stop. So I would leave my body as I come out and go and check the 2 bus stops and then walk to the bus stop that I chose with the smallest line. So that's how I used it. So when I got 17, 18, I'm asking my friends, and I did it in a third party. I said, I have a friend of mine who tells me he travels outside of his body and he travels anywhere he wants to go. Do you know anybody like that? No. Well, he must be delusional. He must be making it up. No, we don't know anybody that does that. So what I did then, I thought, well, I'll ask Art, So I went to bed that evening. I held out my hand and I said, Art, I know there's a lot more to this. Can you come and show me? He came, he took hold of my hand. I left my body. I could see my body fast asleep. And we went out through the window. We flew around the subdivision, came back into the window, and I saw my body fast asleep. And I went back into my body. I woke up the following morning thinking, wow, what was that? Was that a dream? I wasn't certain. Bearing in mind, I'm used to traveling on my own out of body, but not with someone else. So I thought, I'll do that again tonight, the second night. So again, I went to bed, I relaxed, I held my hand out, and I said, Art, I know there's a lot more. Can you come and show me more? So he came, he took hold of my hand, I left my body, we went out through the window, and this time we went down into the Leeds city centre. We flew over the university, the hospital, the town hall, the buildings I recognised, and that time Leeds was a vibrant nightlife. There were people milling about in the streets, going to the different venues and things. And then we came back through the window, and I could see myself asleep, and I went back into my body. I woke up the following morning, and I'm still not certain whether I was sleepwalking, dreaming, or what was really happening. And I was concerned about going out the window because we were 3 stories up, and it was concrete pavement below. So I thought, well, I'll try again on the third night. So I tried again on the third night, same routine. Yeah, Orc came, he took hold of my hand. I looked down, I could see my body asleep. And he said, are you ready? I said, yes. But one thing, I said, I don't like going out of that window. I'm not certain whether I'm sleepwalking. And we're 3 stories up and it's concrete pavement below. So can we go out through the roof? We went out through the roof. And all subsequent journeys together, we went out through the roof. And that continued for quite a while. And then I got quite used to it, quite comfortable with it. Bearing in mind that I've been traveling on my own since I was 9. So I'm used to traveling out of body, but not traveling with someone else. So then that takes me to about 17, 18. And then one night, Orc came to me and he said, Kevin, I'm going to take you somewhere special this evening. Will you come with me? I said, yes, I'll go anywhere you want to go. The usual routine, but we left out through the roof and we kept going up and up and up. And I saw the Earth getting smaller and smaller, the blue planet getting smaller and smaller, not unlike what you see behind me now with this photograph here. And we went up higher and higher and higher into another dimension, a higher dimension. And when we entered that dimension, there was a line of 30 people. In front of that line was stood my deceased father. And I'd never seen him standing because when I was born, he was in a wheelchair. So I'd never seen him standing. And he was stood in front of this line of 30 people. He greeted me. I was pleased to see me. I was pleased to see him. And the love that emanated from this group was overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming. And he said, Kevin, I'm going to introduce you to your family members going back over 30 generations. So we set off down the line. The first 15, they showed me who they were. They spoke about their last incarnation. And when we got halfway down the line, instead of seeing a person, I saw a pure conscious energy orb. So I went down the conscious energy orbs. They were still able to show me their last incarnation. They still told me about the work that they did, and we communicated telepathically. So I went down the line and back up again. And then I did that several times with Art, and then I got very comfortable that I could do it on my own. So over a 2-year period, I would go and visit them on my own. I'd relax, open my mind, travel out of body, go to the higher dimensions and meet with them. But every time I went, they was always asking me to stay with them. And I said, no, I said, I've got things I want to do. I'm happy there. If I stay with you, I feel that my physical body would die. So, no, I'm not staying, I'm going back. I'll keep coming and visiting. But then after the 2-year period, I was finding it more and more difficult to get back to my body. So one day at work, I'm thinking, I don't think I'll go anymore because of this, trying to get back into my body. So, but I thought, I can't just not go and see them. I'll go and tell them this evening that I won't be coming back. So that evening, I went, I spoke with them and told them I wouldn't be coming back. And again, that feeling of love, just overwhelming emotion of love. And I told them I wasn't going to be coming back again. They tried to persuade me to stay. And I said, no, I know you're here. I've got things I want to do. I'm enjoying my physical life. And I know that you are here when eventually my physical body does die. So I left, and I've never been back to see them since. But I know that they're there. I can communicate with them. I could go and visit them if I wanted to, but I don't need to now. It's just part of who I am. And it was part of my education as well in relation to the separation of consciousness from the physical. So because they didn't sit me down in a classroom like to do with some experiences. They gave me practical experiences, and from those I learned. So that's how I did it. Well, that would have
let me ask a question. While we're at this juncture, about to segue. So, you know, I had those educational experiences. We discussed them last time, but in all of my cases, they were missing time. I would come back from them with new knowledge, but I had zero idea how I acquired it. Have you ever had anyone come to you and ask, or do you know of anyone who has asked and found out how to recover those memories?
Oh, that's a very good question. I know there are people that do regression therapy, hypnosis. A friend of mine, Kathleen Marden, she does that, and she takes people back to the memories that they are hidden. I suspect they hide the memories from us on purpose so we don't get frightened. I suspect. But with me, because it was an educational thing, I had to have the memories, and I've got vivid memories of all, and there's many experiences and vivid memories of them all. To a point now where I can communicate with them at their level of consciousness, just like picking up the phone and speaking on the phone to somebody. Or I can go and travel with them if I want to. I can go and meet them. I can bilocate. All these things, when you're using consciousness, you can do that once you know how to do it. So, yeah.
So when I was one, I had, just before one, I had 3, what people would now call NDEs. I had cardiac arrests. I had cerebral meningitis. And I think what I got from some interaction with a regressor is they took me out of my body, healed it, and let me go back into my body. At first, I thought I was now a walk-in, but what I really think is they took me out, healed me, and let me go back in, because the doctors told my parents I was going to die or be a vegetable. And a week later, I was completely recovered. And my parents treated it as a miracle from God because they'd been praying for a week and they felt like they got their miracle. But now with hindsight and all this other stuff, they healed me because they had something for me to do. And then they started, I guess in return for the training or because they were prepared for it anyway, they started training me with these missing time experiences, at least until I was in my early 20s.
Okay, so very similar to mine, only I've just got the memories of them.
Yes.
That's the only difference, really, I think. And in fact, there's a book by Ray Hernandez called Beyond UFOs. He gave me a copy, and in there's a whole chapter on healing from our star families. And I've had a healing myself. I asked for the healing. I had some moles, 2 on my left elbow and 1 on my right wrist. I'd had them for a long while as I was getting older. And then they started bleeding, cracking and itching. So I Googled them, marvelous Google, and it said they were melanomas. I thought, oh, well, I better go and get those removed. So I went to bed that evening and I said to the council of 8, I said, look, I've got these melanomas. I've got 2 on my elbow. I've just Googled them and 1 on my wrist here. Can you remove them for me while I'm asleep? Otherwise, I'll have to go and make an appointment and see the regular doctor tomorrow and have them removed. So I went to bed, I fell asleep. I woke up in the morning. The 2 on my left elbow completely disappeared. Just new baby skin, no scars, no nothing. The 1 on my right wrist, there was a red line around where the periphery had been, and that disappeared by lunchtime. So I know that they do, and I've heard of others that have been healed by asking and things like that. So it is something they do. When I've got another friend of mine, she was healed. She was only given a short period of time to live, and she had an ET come and visit her in the hospital and treated her. So yeah, it's just once we know that they are, we need to know that there are many benevolent ETs. There are some bad ETs out there as well, but we have to look at the benevolent side of them and who they are. And particularly this group of 8, they want to assist with our evolution. They are here to help us, and they are benevolent. So,
and my friend Alex has this question. What do you believe the primary purpose or message between the interactions between NHI and humanity are? And do you believe there is an evolving battle of forces trying to sway humanity?
Without a doubt, I suspect there are the ETs that don't want us to know about our human history, and B, about our galactic history. So it's hidden from us. And I suspect there are 2 agendas, 2 timelines in relation to whether we learn about this. Because if we learn all this, then we cannot be controlled as we are controlled now. So it frees us up really to learn and to become, I think, again, part of the galactic community. I suspect we already were many, many years ago, maybe thousands of years ago. And then I know they did tell me that we've reached this level of technology in the past and we destroyed our societies. We don't want to see that to happen this time. So we are here to assist with your evolution, to assist with your technologies, if we have open contact.
I often thought the Tower of Babel story was an allegory for the event you're talking about. They destroyed our technological community, and then we underwent a diaspora amongst the initial continent, which split and went into multiple continents. It's just really interesting. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Well, I asked them last time, but I don't know if it went through. I asked you if you thought you were hybrid, and you said because they are in touch with you and everything, and you said no, you don't think you are. Did they ever tell you or explain to you about the hybrids that are on Earth and what is that for?
No, we haven't had that discussion or conversation. I mean, I can ask them and they'll give me an answer, but no, I haven't had that discussion. I know what my mission is here, and I know why they've educated me to the level that I have, and I know why I have all the abilities that they have in relation to using consciousness, again, as I say, for communication, for travel, for healing, for education, creation, and co-creation. Because I understand that, I can communicate with them at their level. But my mission here, they've told me this, is to help facilitate the reveal globally of their presence. That's it. And I know when they told me that, and I said, well, how am I going to do that? And if I start speaking out, people won't believe me. And Art said, it doesn't matter whether people believe you or not. The important thing is that you speak and write about your experiences with us. And now I realize the importance of it because I meet other people. I meet people like you and Bob. I wouldn't have met you if I hadn't spoken out. I was happy with my abilities, happy with my life, happy with the interaction, happy knowing that we are multidimensional beings. We can communicate with our deceased family and friends. I live in an expanded, a greater reality, as Ray Hernandez writes in his new book. In fact, I've just got his book the other day, A Greater Reality, and Ray asked me to write a chapter in there. So I've got a chapter in there, and I've read through it. And then a friend of mine, Dr. Melanie Barton, she's written a chapter as well, and she speaks about the Council of Eight, because a few years ago, I was asked by Art to go down to a conference in Orlando. I live about 40 minutes from Orlando. And it was a MUFON conference. I wasn't really interested in the nuts and bolts of things. But I went reluctantly. As I'm driving down there, and I'm saying to Art, I don't know where I'm going. I'm not interested in nuts and bolts. I hope I meet someone down there that will help me on my journey. Anyway, I got there, and I was very impressed with it. Very well organised, a lot of people there, a lot of doctors, engineers, a lot of professional people. I was very surprised. And I listened to the lectures in the morning, and then lunchtime, I went to go and get a sandwich in the canteen area. And I bought a sandwich, and it was full. I couldn't see a seat anywhere. And then I saw a seat at a table where two ladies were sat. So I walked up and asked if I could sit down there and eat my sandwich. They said yes, and sat down, and I started eating my sandwich. When they'd finished their conversation, they brought me into the conversation, and that was, one of the ladies was Dr. Melanie Barton, and she was the one that I was there to meet. And through her, I met Kathleen Marden, and then Denise Stoner, although I met Denise at the conference. But then we arranged to have lunch, they wanted to hear my story. So we met, we had lunch, and then Kathleen invited us back to her house. And coincidentally, if you believe in coincidences, she only lives 10 minutes from where I do. So she lives in the same town, so we're neighbours really. Anyway, so they invited me back to Kathleen's home to continue the conversation after lunch. And then I was relaying some information I've been given. And I think it was Denise that said to me, Kevin, do you know what you're doing? I said, no, what am I doing? She said, you're channeling. I said, oh. I was just repeating the information that they had given me. He said, no, you're actually traveling. I said, oh, right, okay. Anyway, so we had a discussion, and they decided to come round to my home on a Saturday to have a meditation and see if we can make contact with these beings. Because I told them the story similar to what I've told you. And after the meditation, so there was Kathleen Marden, Denise Stoner, myself, my wife, and we did a meditation. And then Melanie, that's Dr. Melanie Barton, said, did anybody receive any information from the extraterrestrials? So everyone said, no. What about you, Kevin? I said, no, nothing. She says, are you sure? I said, no, I didn't receive anything at all. I said, apart from there's a male stood next to me here, because I could feel his frequency. And she said, well, who is it? I said, I don't know. She said, well, ask him. So I asked him, and it was Art. And he when I asked him, he answered through me, and he channeled through me for 40 minutes. And that was the first time I channeled. So then we met once a month on a Saturday for a 2-year period. And we, I think, asked over 100 questions of the Council of 8, and they gave us answers to those questions. Now, Kathleen Marden published it in her book, Forbidden Knowledge, this year. No, last year, I think.
Last year.
That's Kathleen on the back. And she transcribed some of the channelings I did and included them in the book. So if you're interested in the questions and the answers, I think there's over 100 questions that we asked the Council of 8, and I channeled the answers. So they're in that book if you're interested.
So I went to Pine Bush UFO up in New York, and she and Travis were there, and she told me a little bit about the book, and I got it. It's amazing.
Oh, okay, that's good then. That's good. It's nice to see that people are reading it, and people are it. But Kathleen's very popular. She's very well known. She's written several books, and she appears on many channels and documentaries and things. So that may be why they chose that path for me to go down, because Dr. Melanie Barton was very good friends with Kathleen Marden, and I do get introduced to people via the abilities that I have. I was introduced to Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright, and that was quite interesting how I was introduced to her, because I live out in the country near Kathleen, just 10 minutes from Kathleen, and I've got 5 acres, and I take my dogs out. It's all fenced in, so we just go out, walk around, and enjoy the weather here. And as I was walking around, a rainbow appeared from at the front of my property, 180 degrees from the ground to the ground. And while I was walking there, Edgar Mitchell spoke to me. And Edgar Mitchell, he was a 6th man to land on the moon. And he died a few months earlier. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. And he said, Kevin, I want you to give a message to a friend of mine. I said, yes, okay, I will do. So he gave me the message, and it was for Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. And I'd never heard of her then. I didn't even know who she was. So I contacted Melanie, and I said, Melanie, I've been given this message from Edgar Mitchell for Dr. Hardcastle Wright. And I don't know how to get in contact with her. And she said, oh, Kathleen Marden knows Dr. Hardcastle Wright. I'll ask her to send an introduction. So she sent an introductory email, and then we spoke on the phone, and then I'm now a member of her Exo Conscious community, and we meet once a week, and we have done for 3 years now, a group of us discussing all the topics we're talking about today. So but that was an introduction, because that's what, and Edgar's still communicating with other people. For those that have the abilities, the psychic abilities, the psychic intelligence, then we can use those. And I must stress, they are human abilities that we can still communicate with our deceased families and friends. And obviously Edgar utilized his abilities with mine for the communication. So it shows how we are brought together as a community now, really. And in fact, when they asked me, they told me that Ray and Handys was having a conference down in Miami in 2018. And Art said to me, Kevin, we want you to go down there and speak at the conference. Oh, well, nobody knows me. Well, so I contacted Ray, and he says, yeah, fine, come on down. So I went down, and I went down with Kathleen Marden. I think she was doing a presentation, and Dr. Melanie Barton. And I actually did a channel, and Ra came through me. And if you want to see that, it's on my website. If you want to see it, it's not.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, it's when I channel, when the information comes through, we measured the air temperature immediately around me, and it goes up from anything from 7 degrees to 10 degrees. I think it was Denise Stoner had a laser thermometer, and she used it while I was channeling. And you'll see in that, if you watch that channel, it's you'll see me sweating because that's the heat coming out, and that's the difference in the frequencies of consciousness. Because they're at a higher frequency, they generate the heat when they enter our bodies. So that's what. Yeah. But if you want to, you go to www.kevinjbriggs.com, and then go to media, events and media, and then scroll down. I've uploaded some interviews, and that particular channel is there. I've got a green shirt on, so you have to just scroll down and have a look. It's about 20 odd minutes long, but Ra comes through, and you can see the energy that's coming through me. And Melanie did the meditation, so it's really a story. It's a journey, and it's continuing on with the assistance of others and people like yourself, because you have these experiences yourself. You are experiencers. You're all part of this. We're all part of the same story, and it's the biggest story for humanity that we've ever had. And I think so. It's very important.
What did you want me to ask?
Whatever you want.
I couldn't hear what you're saying.
Oh! I wanted her to she was going to ask the question.
So,
what I wanted to tell you is Ray is coming on here very soon.
Oh, it is. I will say hi to him for him.
I will, and he has been very kind to us. He has given us all of his books.
Is he really? Wow.
All of them. I don't know. He feels something about the two of us, and all of a sudden, Ray Hernandez is in our life, and he just gives me all of his books. Wow. And so it was very touching. I was really moved.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is that? Yes. He's got a documentary coming out soon, a pilot film with the same title, A Greater Reality. And then he's got a documentary series, TV series coming out to complement that as well. So hopefully it'll be out later on this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I do appear in it, so I'm looking forward to that. So they came and filmed. We filmed a channel actually for it at Kathleen Marden's home. So that'll be interesting to see that channel. I'm not always certain what I'm saying when I'm channeling the information, but they asked a few questions. I think it was just a short channel of about 20 minutes or whatever. But hopefully if they've kept it in, because I know they've finished the film, because I spoke with one of the producers a couple of weeks ago, and Ray had flown over to Miami to watch it, and it just needed some more editing. So hopefully once they get that done, it'll come out. So
someone asked a question about green. Was it
green orbs?
Have you heard stories about green orbs? What/who are they?
Right. Okay. Very vaguely, I've seen one green orb myself.
Wow.
I don't really know much about. I see other orbs, but I've only seen one, and I thought it was an orb of nature. It was something like the elementals, but we do have. We've done a channel one day at my home here, and after the meditation, I think when we'd finished, my wife, for some reason, decided to take a photograph of the living room where we'd been doing the meditation. And she took 3 consecutive photographs, 1, 2, 3. And when we looked at them, the middle one had orbs in it, 4 or 5 orbs. And in the orbs, there were little faces. You can see these little faces. So clearly but they do interact with Sandy now, which is good. I mentioned earlier about she took a photograph of a craft.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. It's an interesting story. And it was only a few years ago. It's not very long ago. I can't remember the exact time. I log everything, so I've got the dates and things. And I woke up in the morning. Our usual routine is Sandy gets up first. She takes the dogs out, makes a cup of tea, and then we sits on the pool deck. I get up, I make a coffee, and I go and join her. On this occasion, this morning, I woke up. I thought I'll just get in touch with the council of 8, see what they're up to. So I reached out to them, and I was unable to make contact with them, which sometimes I'm unable to do that. But I got in contact with a small craft that was flying past. And the pilot of the craft was Tia. I've mentioned him before when I met him at 14. So I said to him, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, we've deviated from our flight path to come and see where you live." And as I mentioned earlier, when I have a telepathic communication, I see where they are. I see the immediate area surrounding them. He was flying this small craft, metallic craft, with 2 rows of seats behind him, full of small greys who he was transporting from A to B. So we had a short conversation, and then he said, "Right, we will have to go now because, as I said, we're off our designated flight path." Nothing unusual for me. I got dressed, I made my coffee, I went and sat outside. And my wife said, "Oh, you missed the most beautiful rainbow this morning." I said, "Oh, did you get a photograph?" She said, "Yes, I did." And she said, "But you won't guess what happened next." I said, "No, what happened next?" She said, "A craft appeared under the rainbow." I said, "Oh, what type of craft was it?" She said, "It was round, circular, metallic, and it was only just above the tree line." Oh, I know it was below the tree line. I thought it was below the tree line. I said, "Oh, did you get a photograph?" She said, "Yes, I did." It was a little blurred, but when I looked at the time on the photograph, the time on my clock in the bedroom when I was talking to Tia was exactly the same time as the photograph.
Oh my God.
So that was confirmation, not only for my wife of seeing the craft, but for me with the telepathic communication. I mean, I don't need that now, but they're always there with extra information for confirmation, and that's part of the education. But it's good that they include my wife now. I know that Zach, the mathematician engineer, he'll come into my home and I can feel his presence. And Sandy will put something down on the countertop and he'll pick it up and move it. Or she'll, like the sun's coming in now, she'll go and pull the blinds on to stop the sun coming in. She turns around to go and sit back down and he's opened the blinds again. And then on one occasion, Sandy called me, said, "Kevin, come into the closet here, the big walk-in closet in the master bedroom." And, he'd been in there and put all Sandy's shoes neat and tidy in a line next to the baseboard. I said, "I know." I said, "That bit's arc, I'll ask him." And I said, "Did you move these?" He said,
"Can you come clean our house up?
Please.
Please come clean our house up."
I said, "Why did you move them?" He said, "Well, I like teasing her. I think it's funny, and but there's a serious side to let her know we are here, we are amongst you." And then I asked him a question. I said, "Did you pick the shoes up physically and move them?" He said, "No, I moved the atoms in space-time dimension." So that's the technologies that they have in relation to understanding the physics of really the reality that we live in, I think. So I don't have all the answers. But yeah, it's nice that they're integrating with Sandy as well, because without, I've done another Zoom this morning. I've got another one after this one today. And without Sandy's patience and understanding, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. So.
Someone has a question. What do you believe is the reason for different colors of orbs? Are they different types?
I think there are different types. It depends which species they are. They have a species. I've already mentioned the elementals. So I think I've seen the golden coloured orbs, and sometimes within these orbs there's a whole craft. It's not just a small orb. There's a whole craft there. So it's really identifying the different ones. The reason for the different colours, different species, different levels of consciousness that create the orbs. As I said, the conscious energy orbs of the or this group that I see are, as I've already described them, golden yellow in colour, slightly vibrated, but they don't have a face in it. But obviously they have faces in some of them because somebody's taking photographs. And I have a friend of mine as well. She was telling me 2 stray dogs came into her backyard, and I mean this is off topic, but and there was a big dog, like a bull mastiff or something, attacking this little dog and ripping it to bits. So she went out, my friend's in her 70s, she grabbed the big dog and separated them and saved the little dog's life, I'm sure. But then she saw a little grey looking over the fence. The next day she went out and she asked this little grey to show himself. He did. And she got a photograph of it. She sent me the photograph. And she asked the little grey, she said, "Why did you allow me to take a photograph?" He said, "Because you were very brave in stepping in to saving that dog's life. So I'm allowing you to take my photograph." So it's the interaction that we have if we are open to it and if we are not frightened of it. So, and obviously the orbs are part of it. So people are seeing the orbs. They are having the contact. I have another friend, Kathleen Tedder, and she'll be doing a C5 and she's looking up, she doesn't see anything. And then she gets a telepathic message saying, "Point your camera in that direction and take a photograph." She does that. And there's an orb in the photo, and she's got all different colours. She's got reds, blues, orange, all sorts of colours. So yeah, it's the orbs are important. It's a part of communication, really. I think. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question for me and you. Do you guys think these abilities are possible for everyone with training, practice, or is there something rare and some people that enable? Well, I am rare and special, so no, I think everybody can do it. Pretty much.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's just a matter of learning how to do it. But our society in the past has always poo-pooed it and mocked people who have psychic abilities, natural psychic abilities. But once you learn how to, and I've got lots of friends now who all have these abilities and are all parts of this big story. So we all share our stories together. And when you see that how they come together, form a pattern, you realise we live in a greater reality, which is Ray's on film title. But we don't realise it because we don't talk about it, because you got poo-pooed in the past. Now I think because the experiences are getting together, and because we've got the internet, we're all meeting with one another and we're sharing the information. And you soon know when you're talking to somebody. I have people come up to me, total strangers, and they'll give me information. They don't know me from Adam, and they've never seen me talk or do anything, but they'll come up and give me information about some paranormal event that they've had in their home and things. And it's quite interesting, intriguing. They must see something. She said, "Well," she said, "this particular person I'm talking about, she said, I've never told this to anybody else, Kevin, but I think I can share this with you." And I've only been talking to her for 5 minutes. Me and my wife went out to a restaurant. We were sat at the bar. It was a bonefish. And then this other couple came and sat down next to us, and we sat chatting. And she just told me this story. But she had contact with extraterrestrials, and she didn't tell anybody. So that was interesting. And she didn't know that I had contact. I was just a guy sat there having a meal with my wife. So yeah, the opportunities are there, and these abilities we can all learn to do them. Like remote viewing, you can learn to remote view. That's using consciousness again as a conduit for the remote viewing. Yeah.
I agree with that. What did you say?
So I just wanted to write. We had an orb. Yeah, she can't hear me. Orb in a backyard that came down, went horizontal, and then went back up, and it was amazing. It was amazing, Kevin. Inside the orb, there was some kind of craft. You couldn't really make out the outline of the craft, but we could see inside, and it was full of gray alien faces. Went zip, zip, and back up. It was dumbfounding. It was so awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Because they're actually reaching out to us. They're reaching out to you because you're not fearful of them, and it's expanding our collective consciousness in understanding them. I know I'm often given downloads of information. For those that don't know what that is, I've just sat there by my pool, and all of a sudden I'm given lots of information in an instant. And on this particular one, it was an explanation and understanding of the quantum unified field theory, which I knew nothing about. They gave me it in an instant. So again, I said to them, look, you've given me all this information. Can you show me a craft to confirm the information has come from you and it's not just my own imagination? Not that I knew anything about the quantum unified field theory. And a craft appeared immediately. So when I say a craft, it was like a basketball size, glowing ball, shall we say, golden in colour. So I went inside to get Sandy, my wife. I said, come outside and see this craft so you can witness it. So she came outside. We went outside the pool cage. A second one appeared, a third, 4, 5, 7 in total appeared, flew silently over our heads, changed direction by about 80 degrees, and then disappeared sequentially as they had arrived. But because I asked for confirmation, I had another download. I was sat by the pool, and they gave me information about the theory of everything, which I didn't know anything about. So I said, look, you just give me all this information again. Can you show me a craft to show that information has come from you? A craft, when I say craft, this big ball, orange golden ball appeared directly outside the pool cage and flashed 1, 2, 3 times. So that was sufficient for me.
Wow.
And another occasion, there's a lot happens by my pool here. I've got a friend of mine, Mash, and he's always been a skeptic, never believed in ETs or UFOs or everything, but still a very good friend. I used to work with him. He was a detective in the UK. And they come over, in fact, they've just been over now. They come over on vacation and stay with us for a couple of weeks. And on this occasion, we were sat by my pool, his wife and my wife, and I asked him if he wanted a beer. That was a silly question because he likes a beer. So he said yes. So I went inside to get a beer. As I reached into the fridge, I said to the Council of 8, I said, now will be a good time to show my friend a craft. So I took the beers outside, put them down. I sat down and a craft appeared immediately at the back of the home. And it moved below the fence line. It was just like a round orange object. And it darted that way, darted this way, darted up there, and then just went straight up. And he saw it. And he was dumbfounded. And we all saw it. So it confirmed. But it changed his whole reality. Right. From being a skeptic, he now does his own research. He now sends me things about that he's found. Have you seen this, Kevin? Have you seen that? So I think that's what will happen when globally we see the craft, which will be the reveal. People like my friend, it will open up the fact that we are not alone. We live in a greater, I keep coming back to a greater reality, Don. We live in a greater reality, and we are just learning about it now. So, and he wasn't frightened. He just never believed it. What he said was, he wanted evidence. He wanted to see it. He's a detective. Show me the evidence. And well, he got the evidence now.
So unfortunately, we have to stop. But I would love for you to come on again and talk. I mean,
please,
this is interesting.
Please.
Oh, I have to do that. You have lots more stories next.
We have twice the audience we had yesterday. So it was the universe wanted us to blow it up so we could have a much bigger audience.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm happy to come back. So perhaps I can have me back when Ray has his film and documentary series out, because as I say, I'm in that as well. So we could discuss that then, couldn't we? That'd be nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your audience could watch it.
Tell everybody about your latest book.
Oh, my latest book. This is my book, which is Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey. That's me walking through the door of the universe, as it were. But yeah, it's available on Amazon if you want to purchase it. And there's a lot of things I've covered today in there, and some other things that I haven't covered. But it's I get quite a few good reviews on Amazon for it, so people that read it do enjoy it. So,
okay, I'll send you some stuff I didn't want to take any time showing our stuff, but I have a bunch of stuff to show you. Thank you for coming on. It was terrific.
Oh, no.
You are an endless font of interesting stories and information coupled with your personal experience that is very valuable for people to know, Kevin. Everyone, thank you very much for participating in this redo on the second day and making it a bigger audience to honor Kevin, because he deserves the honor. And again, I apologize for wrecking my computer to the point where the stream wouldn't work yesterday. Today we're fine. And everyone, please have a good day. And we are going to look forward to having you back, Kevin.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me. As I said, without people like yourself, I can't get my message out there. So thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.